Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome to another episode of Sundays with the Sumpters. I am Latanya Sumpter, and this is,
Keon Sumpter.
and we are the Sumpters. Listen, this episode was birthed out of us celebrating our anniversary. And so we thought that we would give some insight into our relationship culture, who we are, what we do. We don't proclaim to be relationship experts, but what we do have is a very happy, healthy marriage. And so if you just need a little bit of insight, we got that for you. These videos are absolutely for you. All right, so today, I'm really excited about our topic. So today we're going to talk about lessons that we've learned about ourselves through the relationship or from each other. All right, do you want to kick us off?
I'm good with it. Yep.
Okay.
Well, one thing that I realized early on, but most certainly now, is that if I wasn't gonna be able to realize, be all that I was capable of being without getting access to the key that unlocked that part of myself. And there are so many things that I've learned that I am capable of because of my marriage. Like I said, that I wouldn't have if I hadn't have gotten married. And the commitment that we make to each other requires us to be more than we believe we are capable of. And like I don't know what my image of myself was not didn't match what my wife saw in me or sees in me. And because of that, because she's my eyes for that, I'm able to see it. Like I couldn't see it until she showed it to me. And it's something that she saw in me that she appreciated. So I am far greater socially, better socially than I ever was, because I could take it or leave it. And in watching her interact with individuals and influence people and motivate people, I understand how to do that. I got some insight on how to do that. So my life is different. My interactions with people are different. My relationships with people are different. And in a positive way because of my marriage. That's one thing.
Okay.
We can go back and forth.
We can. So one thing that I have gotten from our relationship and from this marriage is transparency and the importance of being transparent. Listen, I was not for it, okay? I still do have a lot of things that I believe are private, but you definitely added the element of being transparent. And I think that it's helped me across the board. It's helped me with my children. It's helped me with my job. It's helped me just across the board. It's a level of freedom that happens when you're able to be transparent that I had not discovered. So, what comes to mind is I remember when you first came over for dinner and Jadia, this is our 18-year-old, she asked you how much money you made. Do you remember that? She said, as we're eating dinner, she said, "So, Mr. Keon, how much money do you make?" Yes, exactly. Gasp, right? I was like, in the most dignified way that I could muster, I said, "We do not ask those types of questions." And his response was, "I don't see a problem with her asking that question." Your response was, "I am looking to come into your family and add to you all's lives. Like, I think that's a valid question." And he proceeded to tell her how much money he made and also made it kind of a teachable moment. Like, hey, when you're my age, I want you to be making double what I'm making. And I just remember that conversation. And even afterwards, when I talked to you about it, you said, what is she going to do with that information? Like, what is she going to do? And I guess because that's not something that we talked about growing up, it just surprised me. And that was only a precursor to the level of transparency that would take place within our relationship. But I definitely learned that from you, because that was not something that was not something that I did prior to. Yeah.
I know for another one for me is that I have a greater sense of purpose. So I became and it started with becoming an uncle, like not having children, like being a bachelor for so long. You tend to take risks that you wouldn't normally take when you are by yourself. When it's just me that's impacted, it's like, well, I can rough it out, I can do this, I can do that. But it was like my purpose changed as I became more responsible. And somewhere recently I heard it said that like a man doesn't get a chance to fully understand who they are until you're responsible for other people's life, till you commit to being responsible to somebody else's livelihood. And that's when you get a chance to see what type of man you are. And I've always wanted to have that responsibility. It just, I found myself wasting it on people who didn't want that.
Yeah.
So when you finally are applying that to the right place, it unlocks something in you that makes, I mean, it's like, man, I didn't know if I was going to be able to be a dad, be a husband, but I was going to do my best.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of theories, and I'm respectful of my theories versus my experiences. And I had a lot of ideas about what I should do to avoid the mistakes or what I perceived to be mistakes that happen in other people's relationships. And so I knew that I was not going to accept a relationship where those things occurred. And it's scary when you, all this time, you're like, if that was me, I would do this. And all I got to do is this. I don't understand why so when you get in, now being in a relationship, and now these things are tried and true. So I have confidence. I am aware of my abilities. And it's like, oh, I know, in that first year or two, I was like, well, I don't want to be too cocky. But it's like, I do the same thing and I get the same result. So it's like, oh, you want to show up. Yeah. Like you love this is what I committed to my family. I show up to their things. Like, I don't need to do what do people, I don't have to say, well, what do people do? I need to sit down and watch football, I need to sit down and watch whatever. I'm doing whatever my family's doing. It's busy enough. I got enough. My bubble got bigger. My bubble was just taking care of me. And then now I got my bubbles bigger because I got a whole family. So it's like, there's enough in that bubble for me to take care of me worrying about a whole bunch of external things. Yeah. And that was something that I feel like I'm proud of myself for. Like, I feel good about myself. It added value. It added personal value to me because I respect and appreciate the responsibility, being given the opportunity to be responsible and showing up and fulfilling that. Like, I like being a man of my word. I like being, other than the bus stop issue, like, I try to make sure
that was a long time ago.
That if I say I'm gonna do it, I do it. I don't care how tired I am, how whatever, and it's not for nothing. It's not wasted on the wrong people, wrong person, and that's something that's been very satisfying, and it helps me to discern who's worthy of that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's more worthy than, because I made a commitment to forsake all others. So she's like, I can't. If I got to decide between her and somebody, it's gonna be her. That's just
every time.
That's how it is, and that's what was that's what I heard before I got married, and that's what I committed to at the altar. So that seemed to be working for me.
For the record, every time.
Every time.
Okay.
It works every time.
Something that I've learned, and trust, we don't have time to go through everything that we have personally gained from this marriage or from this relationship, but we just thought we'd throw out a few. One of the things that I learned about me is that and we talked about this a little bit, but I am not as forgiving and as graceful as I thought. I always thought I was graceful and forgiving, and listen, when I tell you, put to shame, okay? Not at all. Do I hold the same standard as you do. First of all, it's not hard for me to be like, I don't rock with you no more. I don't talk to you anymore. I don't deal with you anymore.
Mean cutoff game.
I mean, and it don't even take a lot, right? It's taken more, I think, over the years as I've learned grace and forgiveness. But that's something that I feel like I was gifted through this relationship.
We balance each other out.
Yeah.
Because we were just discussing this over brunch, I guess that would be, where we were talking about this very topic, and we were able to identify that the reason I have so much grace is because I've been given so much grace in my life. Like, I have made so many mistakes, and knowing it was the wrong thing and still doing the wrong thing, and I am without a doubt a great recipient of grace. A grateful recipient of grace. So I know it when I see it, so I know how to give it. She, I don't think, has done as many things that require grace. Like, some of the things that she thought met the litmus, it didn't register. It's like some of the things were more her acceptance of judgment and like societal judgment. Like, just because society said it was wrong, she felt like that made her wrong, but it wasn't wrong. And it wasn't like you had evil or malintent. Like, I've done things wrong that I knew I kind of considered would hurt somebody, or how you know you wrong is when you're sneaking.
Right.
And I did a lot of that as a youngster. Now, the reasoning why, it's still, I did it. And I didn't get what you would get when you do those things. That's grace.
Yeah.
And she didn't do things like that, but hey.
Well, to be fair, because I don't want people to put me in the wrong category. So I think I've always been kind of viewed as a goody-goody anyway, which is so not true. Like, I don't feel like that's true.
Well, I think that term, it depends on, I think that when you say goody-goody, you can say it in a negative tonation and you can say it in a positive
It's always
tonation.
been said in a negative tonation.
I got you, but that don't mean that just because somebody called, that's like, oh, you think, like, you so tall, you tally, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, I am tall. But you perceive tall as a bad thing, and I perceive tall as a good, tall is not bad for me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, I mean, I seek to do, you seek to do good. Like, you had good intentions.
Yeah.
And just because everybody ain't doing it, and some people feel uncomfortable with not doing what everybody's doing, they might say, I know she got the answer or whatever. But then when 10 years, 20 years later, yeah, it was that. I wish I had done that when I was, and that's what you hear.
Yeah.
So when we go with what people say, how people judge us that don't know us, we limit ourselves. It creates a limiting belief system, and it's like, we all good. Like, I ain't doing nothing nobody else can do, but I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what set us apart. It ain't because I'm better or I'm goody. It's because I would rather not experience the other side of not making the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Or making the right choice.
Or just being willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Because, it doesn't necessarily come easy. It just, who's willing to do the work. But that's something I learned about myself throughout this relationship is that I am not as, like, horrible in areas as I once thought that I was. And to your point, those were limiting belief systems, and they hold you back. Yeah. If you don't have somebody there to kind of to help you understand that, hey, I know what you think, but this is not that, right? And I'm grateful to get to a better place.
That goes back to that transparency too, because when we first got together, before, I know she seemed to have had her mind made up. And I was like, well, hold on, I gotta tell you everything that I've done since we've been apart, so that you can make an informed decision about whether you really, if you feel that, you still feel that way about me. And I thought the things that I did were horrible. I just thought that I told her everything I thought, that she would be like, nah, I'm glad you told me. Because I figured she would at least respect me. We would at least be friends. She would respect me for having made those choices. Like, I made changes. I made I went the other direction, but I still did it. And that's still something, like, when you subject yourself to people just because you've changed and you got with your higher power about how you know what I'm saying, you made your amends. There's people that saw you do those things that don't know that you made the change, and that's all
Right.
they remember. So when they be like, when they see her, and it could impact her brand, her face, because they like, oh, you with him, you know he did da da da. So with us, you can't blindside us because we know everything. We talk about everything. So, and that's always been a strategic move for me. It's like I keep it 100 with my people, so nobody can blindside them with anything.
Yeah.
So they be like, yeah, and they don't even have to say they know, but they be like, and they be like, well, I wonder why. That's our weapon. You know what I'm saying? That's our strength, is we honest with each other totally, even if it's uncomfortable,
Right.
even if it's scary, because there was a lot of scary things we had to say to each other, in love, you know, remembering that we love each other, that left unsaid would cause way more damage.
For sure.
Because you feel it. Like, I feel your energy. If you got a problem and you don't say it and you got an attitude, and it's like, well, what did I do? Now I'm left to fill in the blanks. And that transparency is our strength. All these things is our strength. You know, it's just been an amazing experience. I'm just saying, we can go. We don't have enough time.
I know.
I mean, this is an hour. We need to write it down or something. But I know that today is a beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
And I'm grateful to be with my beautiful wife. We decided to come outside today.
Yeah.
And the topic, this one was, I knew this one was gonna be. We got to chop it down, because we knew that there's just so many things. There's so many things that have changed about me because of making the right choice. You know, I made the best choice of my life, and I'm getting the best results of my life consistently, which let me know that I've definitely made the right choice.
Well, I concur and agree. And thank you so much for joining us. Like you said, we just don't, maybe we'll do a part 2 or something. I don't know, but there are just so many things that we have been able to gather about ourselves through this relationship. But time. So, but again, thank you again. Thank you again. I don't know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Sundays with the Sumpters. We hope that you join us next week. We also hope that you have the most amazing coming up week. And remember, I'm cheering for you, okay? Take care.